Welcome to your next assignment. In this task, you're going to become your own digital director. You're going to be composing your shots and creating camera moves for a 15-second product spot. You're going to have a lot of flexibility in this assignment because for this product ad, you can use one of the products that you've already lit, textured, or rendered during this course, and you can use it to create this 15-second ad. Alternatively, you can use this pre-built and pre-lit scene that I'm going to provide, which is right here, which features a little video game vibe, and an 8-bit title that you can choose to use or modify, change it to your own type. I got this text. It's called 8-Bit Wonder from defont.com. So you can download it on your own and use that 8-bit font or use whatever font you want. I'm also going to provide an 8-bit themed audio track for the ad as well. Regardless of what you use for that 15-second spot, you need to add audio to it, whether it's the audio track we provide or you find your own audio track on the interwebs. Whatever you choose, you'll need to edit everything together in either Premiere or After Effects, synchronizing the rendered shots with the audio track. Now, there is a way to actually get an audio track inside of Cinema 4D that you can use to reference and kind of time things out. So let me just cover that really quick. So we're in Cinema 4D right now. It's kind of a weird, janky way to add audio, but if you go to your timeline here, what you need to do is first create a null. And this is just going to be where we load up our audio. So I'm just going to name this audio track. And then what I'm going to do is just drag and drop that into our timeline so it shows up in our timeline. So once we have this audio track null in here, I can go to create, add special tracks, because this is a very, very special track we're about to add here. And we're just going to add a sound track, okay? So once you add that, you see there's this sound here, and there's this little area where you can actually choose a audio track. So I'm going to go in here, and in your download, you should have this little audio file right here, short mini Kong. So it's 15 seconds long. It's exactly as long as this piece will be. So it's perfect. We'll load that up. And so what you can see is, hopefully you can hear that, but if you scrub through, you can actually hear it. And if you play, you can hear the music and the audio playing through here. So as long as you are rolling in real time, so remember that is going to your view settings, going to your HUD, going to frames per second. If I hit play, again, this is 24 frames per second. I got some things animating in here. And sorry, I like talk over the sweet jams of the little Kong thing there. But you see it, there's some things animating there. If you ever do want to deactivate the sound, if you're like, I'm getting tired of hearing it, just uncheck use sound. You can play back here. And so basically what you should watch out for is that this frames per second is always above that frame rate that you have. Again, the frame rate you should render at is this 24 frames per second. It's already set up in the project here as well. But if you use your own, file in your own model, be sure to render at 24 frames per second as well, because it'll just speed up your render. You have less frames, and it's a little bit more cinematic to shoot. Not to shoot, but to render at 24 frames per second. So remember, if you're not running at real time, remember what you should do is go into this little area here and uncheck all frames. So you can see that I actually had all frames unchecked to begin with. And you can see that we're kind of herky-jerkying between like 6 frames per second and 100 frames per second, which is kind of weird. Or you can just go in and you can turn off all the audio here, or all the animation. So if I go to default bookmark, you can go and you can just hide, turn off all these audio tracks, or I keep saying audio tracks, these animation tracks. And so if you're getting just the camera moves down, you don't really need anything else in your scene moving. So I can even turn off these random effectors here. Now, unless you're actually gonna you compose your shot with one of these secondary elements here that are getting animated, you'll want to keep these on. But they should be fairly light in your scene. But all that is to say is if this is running very slow, uncheck all frames. And you can turn back on all your animation tracks here. See, I didn't say audio tracks this time. And you can then kind of time things out. So One thing you can also do is go to, again, I'm going to have to go and click on this little audio track here, use the sound, and there's a concept called just editing to the beat. I'm sure you've done this before if you have done your own demo reels. Like, you want to cut whenever the beat hits because it's a way more natural transition. The transition from shot to shot will feel a lot more natural. So what I recommend you do is you can play this out and like boom, 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 hit the marker thing, and this will add a marker every time you hit it, and you can just follow the beat. So, you know, I used to be a drummer back in the old high school days, so you know, I think I hit on the beat there pretty good. And so now you have all these markers that you can adjust. And by the way, if you ever want to remove markers, just go to this marker menu and just delete all markers. But now you can see that, okay, on any of these things, I can actually now turn off the sound so I don't have that playing back. And you can say like, okay, I can cut between, you know, using the stage object, I can cut between one camera or to another camera on one of these markers. Okay, so that's pretty helpful there. Now, for the whole editing part about this, you'll need to create at least 5 different camera moves or shots. Okay, so keep in mind the 7-shot sequence technique to ensure variety in your shot types, and remember to follow those compositional rules when you are framing up your shots. So you can see right here, I got some compositional guides, right? So remember to use eye trace, match cuts that are on the beat, so get the beat going, and continuity of movement to create smooth, motivated transitions between shots. So if your computer can handle it, experiment with adding the depth of field and the motion blur to your final render. But if your computer's slow, feel free to also render out a low resolution. So something like 1280 by 720, or you can go vertical doing 720 by 1280, or even lower if you need to. And I do like having you render at these aspect ratios because they're the best for posting on social media, and I always recommend you post your work. And hey, be sure to tag us when you do. Love to see your work. So when you do render, just render out as a PNG 16-bit. That'll be good enough for now. Make sure you're doing all frames. Again, if you're doing 24 frames per second, 360 frames is 15 seconds. So this is already set up in this project file that we're providing. So again, if you're creating your own project file with your own product, for example, you can just use these same settings. Got some last tips for you. Remember to watch out for tangents. Remember that that's when you have something kind of just touching the edge, like right here or right here. Feels kind of odd. Either crop it or have it fill the space. Give it a little bit of padding on the edges, okay? Also, you want to keep in mind those compositional rules we covered. Use those compositional guides. Be sure to avoid having camera moves that ease in and ease out and come to a complete stop, especially if you're going to cut from one shot to the other. You don't want that herky-jerky start, stop, start, stop. Now, of course, when you end the animation and you're on the final shot, you can totally come to a rest. But remember, have a little bit of motion at the end. Nothing should ever be a standstill because your composition is boring. So you can use the stage object to kind of edit everything together, or if you prefer, you can actually build your shots separately without using the stage object. And that way you can edit them together in Premiere, and you can kind of render out heads and tails, which is basically just adding a bunch of frames before and after the main animation. So this is where having that continuing camera motion, having the before after track. So remember the continue and continue. So you can just render out a longer sequence and edit it together in Premiere or After Effects. I highly recommend doing it in Premiere, and you just have way more flexibilities, because this is how cinematographers will work in the real world, right? They'll capture enough B-roll and footage so that they will have options when it comes to editing everything together. So if they need to, have a 2-second clip, they might be pulling that or editing that from, pulling that little section from a clip that's 6 seconds long. So that means that each of your camera moves maybe you edit them down to 2 seconds, but maybe they're 4 seconds long. So you have those, again, those heads and tails, the time before and after the main meat of the shot to play around with and edit, okay? So to recap, you need to create a 15-second promo for a product ad. You need to include at least 5 different shots that use a variety of camera moves. You need to add music, edit it all together, either in Premiere or After Effects, and that's it. Good luck, and I can't wait to see your best Spielberg impression.